Howdy folks, you're watching Deuce, and today we're talking about stories from the shooting range. I came across an interesting story on Reddit, and it was very similar to a story I have. So if there's two of us, then there's probably many more of us that's experienced something similar, and I figure we can talk about that. And if you have any other interesting stories from the shooting range, go ahead and put those down below, and we can talk about those as well. But this is going to be a special Fudd edition of the shooting range stories. First of all, it's a good idea that we define the word Fudd. F-U-D-D. The word Fudd stands for a casual gun owner who is someone who typically only has a gun for hunting or shotgun sports, things of that nature, and does not truly believe in the premise of the Second Amendment. Unfortunately, another common trait amongst Fudds is that they treat people that have pistols and AR-15 semi-automatic rifles in general, which is about half my gun collection, with scorn, and they do not like us, unfortunately. But they're the first ones to say, as a gun owner, ... something against the Second Amendment. These people are not our friends. These people do not help us fight for furthering the Second Amendment. And now the Fudd story that I came across on Reddit. A friend of mine and I were doing some shooting drills at the range. We had two targets set up. We were doing 2 shots to the body, 1 shot to the head as quickly as possible. So basically they're doing 3-round bursts into the body and the head. So boom, boom, boom. If you get really good at that, you can do that very quickly. Fudd comes by. He comes running over and says, "Are you guys shooting binary triggers?" A binary trigger, if you're not familiar with it, is a trigger where you shoot around when you pull the trigger and it shoots another round when you let off on the trigger. So boom, 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 boom. So the Fudd comes over and asks them if they're shooting binary triggers. They say, "No, sir, I don't know what trigger my friend has, but I've got a nice Geisley trigger." The Fudd continues, "Well, that sounds like a binary trigger." The shooter responds, "Well, thank you," as a compliment, because that would be very hard to do without a binary trigger to make it sound like that. So they've got their trigger pull going pretty well. They can rattle out some rounds very quickly. And then the Fudd notices that the barrel length is under 16 inches, but there's a carbine style stock on the AR-15. He says, whoa, you can't have that stock on that AR pistol. And the shooters say, no, this is not an AR-15 pistol. This is a short barrel rifle that is correctly stamped and registered with the ATF through the NFA process. At this point, I think the Fudd realizes that he's over his head. And he says, "Well, at least you don't have any of those illegal triggers. Well, I don't need to report you then." Then the Fudd sees that the shooters also have some suppressors out. And the Fudd says, "Oh, you like suppressors? I like suppressors too. That's one of my things. Let me show you one of my new suppressors." So he goes to his shooting bag, brings out, and let me get the correct verbiage here. Then the Fudd proceeds to show me the most janky looking Wish.com very illegal suppressor that he has drilled out, and there's not a bit of engraving on the side of the tube whatsoever, which is very illegal. That is a federal crime. If you're not in the know, if you're in a state that you can buy and own a suppressor legally, then the vast majority of those same states, you can also make your own suppressor. But you do have to follow the same guidelines prescribed by the commercial suppressors. You have to pay the tax stamp, register it with the ATF through the NFA process, and there is a required engraving that you have to put on the side with all the required information from your name, the model number, the caliber, and where it was manufactured. This thing had none of that. It was just a completely blank tube. My personal Fudd story is very similar to this, but let's go ahead and continue that conversation upstairs in the garage, because I've got an F-250 that I can't get started, and right now it's my only vehicle that I have at the house. So I'd prefer to have a working vehicle at my disposal. So let's go ahead and go upstairs and get that sucker started. Alrighty, I was on vacation in Death Valley for a week, and I come back with the truck frozen solid, and I could not get her started. Of course, that was at midnight, so we're gonna go ahead and see if I can get her started now. She's warmed up a little bit. Let's see. We're going to turn off everything. You can see right there, the amps are being drawn into the glow plugs. So we're just going to let her chooch right there. Let her eat up as much heat as possible and hope for the best. Let's give her a shot because it just barely turned over. So let's find out. Yeah, that is not going to work out. So we're going to have to charge up those batteries or take a look at what else we can do here. If you work in any kind of industrial electrical situation, even if it's just a tertiary electrical situation, get yourself a fluke and make sure you write your name on it. But the fluke has all the capabilities. It's the right color. You're going to be one of the family immediately. Okay, you're seeing 12.1, 12.11, whatever you want to call it there. That is not great, but that should be fine. It's just down on the amps, I guess. And as you can see, the sky, the light is waning. The brightest part of the sky is the moon right there. So it's time to pack it up because I cannot get a good picture for you guys to watch. So we'll have to continue the endeavor of getting the F-250 started tomorrow. And I got some good stories of my own regarding Fudds at the shooting range. We are now on the second day of trying to get my F-250 started here. Unfortunately, being on camera means that it takes at least 3 to 4 times as long to do anything. So if you want a YouTube channel, you got to make some time to do your stuff, because I would have had this thing knocked out last night, but you got to think about the weather, you got to think about the lighting, you got to think about camera angles, and that just takes a lot of time. So let's get to it, because I still got a truck to start. I do not remember where we left off last night. All right, I got the airbox off, or the airbox extension off, and I've got the battery unhooked over here. Of course, we got 2 batteries, and we really need to get them both taken care of. You can't just change out one or charge one. You got to do both for a diesel. And while I'm on this side, I can tell you my Fudd story. I have a very similar story to the gentleman on the internet with a Fudd on the shooting range. Hey, someone, maybe me, replaced that nut at some point. Interesting. Okay. Well, I was on the range with some friends, and I was loose. Jesus, what's wrong with me? I was on the shooting range, and a friend of mine and I, we were doing double taps because we had just gotten some good compensators. And if you've got a good compensator, you have got to test it out. So we were just doing quick double taps at a target about 25 yards away with our AR-15s. There we go. And a Fudd showed up, of course, severely overweight, and had a look of disgust on his face. And he mentioned to me that trigger cranks, which I have a trigger crank. He might even seen the video and knew it was me. I don't know. But he said that trigger cranks and full auto was not allowed at the range. We're just doing normal double taps. So we showed the guy, the Fudd, that no, in fact, we were just doing normal double taps with just really, really good triggers and, of course, compensators. And he finally warmed up to the idea that we were pretty much normal average Joes that just happened to like to shoot fast, and we were doing it in a safe manner. But after he accused us of doing things that were illegal, he proceeds to pull out his own AR-15, which he shows off, and it's a 10-inch upper on an unserialized, well, not unserialized, but unregistered AR-15 lower. And that, my friend, is illegal. If you have a short barrel rifle with a full-on carbine style stock and carbine style buffer tube, and you got a 10-inch barrel on that, you had better have, one of two things. One of two things needs to be involved there. Number one, the person was in law enforcement, which if this person was in law enforcement, I am even more disappointed in the hiring practices of my local law enforcement. I'm almost positive he's not in law enforcement. So number two is that you need to have that serialized as a short barrel rifle. And there was not a single serialization as far as the NFA is concerned on there. It had the normal, roll stamp and serial number from, I think it was an Anderson manufacturing, like what I've got, the Poverty Pony. So yeah, a guy breaking the law accused me and my friend of breaking the law. Ultimate FUD right there. Ultimate FUD. I can't find a date anywhere on here. Nowhere to be found. I don't know how old these things are. Of course, all these are just completely weathered off. See if I can get a close-up of that. You guys can tell me what if that signifies anything. That's the only thing I can figure out here. L2, don't know what that sticker is for. I got this old battery charger that someone, I think, gave to me years ago, and it still works, so I go ahead and just use it. It's slow, but it does its job, no problem at all. And it just plugs into the wall, which I'm going to move these away from the gas source here because those are full of gasoline. Last night I did think this is a great opportunity to do one of those or test out one of those battery jump boxes you can get, those lithium ion battery jump boxes. And did some research, and for the vast majority of the people that I know who have used them on diesel engines, all of them swear by the NOCO, the NOCO, I guess it's pronounced NOCO 150s. And I looked those up and they're $300. I can buy a lot of batteries at Rural King for $300. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass on that. If NOCO wants to send me one to test out for you guys, I'll be happy to do that. But I do not make enough money on YouTube to justify $300 to just do a test on YouTube. But if you're looking for one for a diesel engine, the NOCO 150 is apparently the cat's meow bee's knees of diesel start boxes. All right, she's done. Round two. Negative, negative. Good old positive, positive. So we'll check it and automatically start charging. There we go. All right, moment of truth. Wait to start. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. No problems whatsoever after a full day on the charger. Well, it looks like we've got two different conclusions from this video. Number one is that I definitely have to be thinking about buying a new set of batteries for the F250. She sat outside for a week in sub-zero Celsius, sub-freezing weather for an entire week, and she lost all her start juice. And the second conclusion is that if you are on a shooting range and you see someone on the other side of the range shooting something that may look like it could be illegal technically per the ATF regulations, as long as those shooters are shooting safely, not endangering other people on the range, not sweeping the other shooters or anything of that nature, mind your own business. Mind your own damn business. Nothing that they're doing is any concern of you unless they are being unsafe in their shooting practices. If not, let them be. And more than likely, they will let you be. That's the way this whole thing works. And that is one of the reasons why Fudds have their reputation that they do. Basically, they're tattletales. No one likes a tattletale, especially when they're doing it for no other reason other than to feel superior over someone else. That's just that's a no-go for the vast majority of gun owners. You just don't go down that path. Well, guys, that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a like and go subscribe. A lot more is on the way. If you have any comments, questions, show what it is, or personal stories from you, from your situation at the range with these Fudds, let me know down in the comment box below. I try to get as many as possible and respond to as many of you guys as possible. As always, you guys have a great day. See ya.